Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elders of GMS. Much love to you brothers on the four corners of the planet that's pushing this truth with a sincerity, honesty, and faith. Now, this is things are moving pretty quick in this situation in Ukraine. I'm just gonna play these videos and
Barack Obama.
So,
Good afternoon, everybody. Over the last several days, the United States has been responding to events as they unfold in Ukraine. Now, throughout this crisis, we have been very clear about one fundamental principle. The Ukrainian people deserve the opportunity to determine their own future. Together with our European allies, we have urged an end to the violence and encouraged Ukrainians to pursue a course in which they stabilize their country, forge a broad-based government, and move to elections this spring. I also spoke several days ago with President Putin, and my administration has been in daily communication with Russian officials, and we've made clear that they can be part of an international community's effort to support the stability and success of a united Ukraine going forward, which is not only in the interest of the people of Ukraine and the international community, but also in Russia's interests. However, we are now deeply concerned by reports of military movements taken by the Russian Federation inside of Ukraine. Russia has a historic relationship with Ukraine, including cultural and economic ties, and a military facility in Crimea. But any violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity would be deeply destabilizing, which is not in the interest of Ukraine, Russia, or Europe. It would represent a profound interference in matters that must be determined by the Ukrainian people. It would be a clear violation of Russia's commitment to respect the independence and sovereignty and borders of Ukraine and of international laws. And just days after the world came to Russia for the Olympic Games, it would invite the condemnation of nations around the world. And indeed, the United States will stand with the international community in affirming that there will be costs for any military intervention in Ukraine. The events of the past several months remind us of how difficult democracy can be in a country with deep divisions. But the Ukrainian people have also reminded us that human beings have a universal right to determine their own future. Right now, the situation remains very fluid. Vice President Biden just spoke with the Prime Minister of Ukraine to assure him that in this difficult moment, the United States supports his government's efforts and stands for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and democratic future of Ukraine. I also commend the Ukrainian government's restraint and its commitment to uphold its international obligations. We will continue to coordinate closely with our European allies. We will continue to communicate directly with the Russian government, and we will continue to keep all of you in the press corps and the American people informed as events develop. Thanks very much. Very much.
This is the Russian Council, and the video speaks for itself. But the prophecies are moving. We've been saying this through the power of the Most High and the Son, and now it's coming to pass. So just watch.
Therefore, I'm asking Mr. Ozerov to put the decision of the joint committees for your consideration. He will read this statement of the Council of the Federation of the Russian Federation on the use of the armed forces of the Russian Federation on the territory of Ukraine. Having considered the appeal from the President of the Russian Federation and based on the interests of the safety of the citizens of the Russian Federation, our country's fellow men, and the military staff of the armed contingent of the Russian Army and Navy deployed in Ukraine in accordance with the international agreement and the Autonomous Republic of Crimea, and in accordance with the Clause G, Part 1 Article 102 of the Constitution of the Russian Federation, the Council of Federation of the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation has wrote the following: to give consent to the appeal of the Russian Federation to use the armed forces of the Russian Federation on the territory of Ukraine until the normalization of the political situation in Ukraine is achieved. Second, this decision comes in force on the date it is signed. I am asking for your support. Do you have any questions to Mr. Ozerov? No questions. Do you have any additions, appeals, any further details on this draft? No. In that case, I am putting this draft decision on the vote. Those who are in favor of passing this draft decision of the joint committees, please vote. Vote in progress. The decision has been adopted unanimously.
More than half.
And we begin with the breaking news out of Ukraine. Events there are changing by the hour. The latest, Russian President Vladimir Putin has secured approval from his own parliament to send in Russian troops into the strategic region of Ukraine known as Crimea. Now, this seems to formalize what Ukrainian officials have been saying, that Russian troops are already there. Aircraft have been spotted overhead and armed troops have been seen on the ground. Putin says he is just protecting ethnic Russians in the area following the ouster of Ukraine's pro-Russian president last week. But Ukrainian officials are accusing Russia of an actual military invasion and occupation. Fox News radio correspondent Jessica Gallagher is joining us now on the phone, and she's on the ground in Crimea. Welcome, Jessica. Tell us what's going on right now and the latest about the tensions, and what are you hearing from the Ukrainian people?
Thanks for having me. I basically arrived here in Crimea yesterday, just got in by the skin of my nose. After I landed, armed Russian-speaking gunmen took over the Simferopol airport here in Crimea. They also took over, had to roll down the window and speak to the men, and I asked if they were Russian or Ukrainian. There was no response. Since then, obviously, we've gotten word at least that Russia has given the green light, as you mentioned, for Russia to basically officially put troops here in Crimea. There is quite a lot of tension, as one can imagine. The average Crimean is very nervous. A lot of people here are Russian-speaking, about 60% ethnic Russians here. They're still very nervous because some of them want to look west towards Europe, the others want to look east towards Moscow. So there are a lot of fears. Crimea also, basically, the armed men took over regional parliament in Simferopol, which was where the airport is, and masked gunmen basically stormed regional parliament, took down the Ukrainian flag, and raised Russia's flag. And basically, they said that they didn't want to have anything to do with Kiev. So that there is now an interim prime minister in Crimea who basically says that he feels like his people, the Russian speakers here, are going to be threatened because they speak Russian and they're not Western-leaning, that they want to look towards Moscow. They're afraid that their schools will be closed. They're afraid in general. And he basically asked the Russian President Vladimir Putin's help personally. And then the latest that we hear that the Russian parliament has given the go-ahead. Another strange thing that's coming out of this is that the Russian Foreign Ministry put out a vague statement right after Parliament approved the use of troops here, saying that even though Putin has been given approval by Parliament, doesn't mean that it will happen soon, which is a little strange, considering that we're seeing lots of troops here. I'm staying at a hotel right on the Black Sea, and there are Russian ships that I can see from my hotel room. So a very, very tense situation here.
Now, is the airport in that region closed? There have been news reports that those troops have taken over the airport, and as you point out, they are stopping people along the roadways.
Absolutely. They are officially closed. There was a lot of back and forth yesterday. Armed men basically saying that they were not a part of any, that they were not Russian, that they were just there to make sure that Russian interests were being protected. And then Ukraine's government, the interim president came out to say, wait, no, we understand that armed men tried to take over the airport, but it's not true. Flights are still going in and out. And then we hear from Ukrainians, international airlines, and they say, we can't land. You know, the airspace has been violated. I have colleagues that tried to fly out yesterday. No one is getting in or out of this area unless you're military.
Wow. Obviously, the stakes remain quite high there. I know you're going to be following this story very closely and report back to us about those developments that are changing by the hour. Jessica, thank you so much and stay safe.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. For now, I'm going to say shalom. All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the elders of GMS. Keep faith.